Hey guys, this is Rick and welcome to Walk and Talk 3. The witch is over there taking a bath, or at least that witch is taking a bath. We got a zombie hanging out over there. Oh my goodness. It's kind of a pretty little, this would make a good spot to build on right here. You got this nice little lake kind of thing running it, maybe a river that runs down that way. And, oh, I guess the witch despawned. But boy, this is really pretty. I'll tell you, my favorite biome is the woods or forest biome. Excuse me. I really like it. I love the color of the grass, and I just think it's just really pretty. I always try to build my houses or whatever I have. I try to build them in forest biomes. I really like the color of the grass in the rooftop biomes as well. That's really just a very pretty shade of green, so it's really nice. Yeah, this is would be a great place to build. Yeah, might have to remember this. Get the seed on this one and then see if I can find it and maybe play on this for a while. It'd be kind of fun. Well, I had in the first Walk and Talk, I had mentioned about Let's Play and how I thought they might not survive, at least in its current form. You know, the caveat here is, though, that whenever you try to predict the future, you're always going to be wrong. Let's face it. I mean, I'm still waiting for flying cars. I haven't seen those. You know, the ones that they've had here, you know, they've had a couple of them in the past, and yeah, so far none of them have really panned out to be anything other than spectacular sinkholes for money, but and dangerous to boot, despite all of the supposed computer-controlled wetsits on them. They're still pretty darn dangerous. So whenever you predict the future, you're going to be wrong. Let's just face it. So, of course, that's not going to stop me from let's see if I can get rid of this rain here, just because I don't like the rain. Whenever you, as I said, whenever you try to predict the future, you're going to be wrong. But that never stopped me before, so I'm going to do it anyways. I've been around for a long time. I've seen the gaming industry from the very beginning. You know, a lot of people are surprised that me being an old fart, and I am an old fart, let's face it. I've already mentioned publicly that I have grandchildren, so you know that I'm on the other side of the hill sliding down, so to speak. Not quite that bad, but you know what I mean. People are surprised that I play games. It's like, dude, you're a gamer? Wow, you know. It's like I'm supposed to be in a wheelchair, I guess, you know, and drooling on myself or something. The fact of the matter is, I've been playing games probably longer than some of you have even been alive. Let me put it that way. I was playing games back when, computer games now, back when there weren't monitors on computers. I remember one of the first games I played was a Star Trek type game. And we had to play it. It was on a mainframe type system. And we actually had to play it using the printout. Back in the day, now this was back in the in the mid-70s. Back in the mid-70s. Back then, there were no home computers, by the way, back in the mid-70s. There weren't even any 8-bit home computers. There was no Apple, Apple 2GS or any of that kind of stuff. No Atari, no Commodore 64 back then. It was all mainframes, and they had just come out with something they called a mini computer, which was the size of a dishwasher. That was a mini computer. But you have to understand that the computers back then, the ones that you actually did work on, I mean, they were the size of a room. I mean, they were huge things. They didn't have they weren't integrated circuits. They were discrete circuits. They had transistors and whatnot. They weren't, although, believe it or not, some of the military computers back then, and even up into the late I would say the late 80s, some of the military computers, some of the big ones, were still running on vacuum tubes. Now, if you don't know what a vacuum tube is, Google it, because I bet a lot of you have no idea what a vacuum tube is, and it's pretty interesting stuff. If you're an audiophile, you know what a vacuum tube is, because that's big in the audio arena, if you will. Oh, hey, I think we're getting, yeah, Mesa. Awesome. Let's check out this Mesa here. So I've been playing computer games for a long time. Back when we played the Star Trek game, it was on a you basically had a keyboard, and there was a big printer, and the printer printed one whole line of text at a time, and they were super, super loud. I mean, they were just horribly loud. I complained about this computer being loud when I record, and I have to go into Audacity and get rid of the background. Let me tell you, it was so loud that you could put on earphones and you'd still hear it. That's how loud they were. And every time we'd make a move on the game, it would print out the screen on paper. And I tell you, I don't know how many reams of paper we went through back in the day playing these computer games. So I've been playing computer games for a long time. So I've seen the gaming industry from a very long perspective. And I will tell you that the gaming industry is very cyclic. It's up and down, up and down, up and down. And it has been that way from the very beginning. There was consoles. When the consoles came out, they were big news. I mean, the Atari 2600, amazing at the time. Then you had Nintendo, mind-blowing. And then all of a sudden the 8-bit computers came out. And now the consoles almost virtually disappeared there for a while. But then after some time, after the Commodores and the Ataris and and I'm talking about computers now, the Apple IIGs, Apple IIs and 2GSs, after those kind of came around for a while, consoles came back for a while. So it was a big console thing for a while. Continued. And then IBM came out with their computer. Now, the original IBM computer was a proprietary system, but IBM, at the time, IBM was big into punch cards, believe it or not. They had a whole huge business in punch cards. Now, punch cards are little cards that you would use to enter in your programs on a computer, and they were big into this thing. They had readers and all kinds of stuff. They didn't really want to give that up because that was a big portion of their business. And so, IBM started as a quote-unquote business machine, which back in the day meant like adding machines, mechanical computers, if you will. The IBM PC personal computer was actually a side project that IBM did, and they virtually invested no money in it whatsoever because they weren't interested in it. They didn't think it was going to go anywhere. Computers at the time were used for playing games, although, believe it or not, on the Commodore 64, the Atari, the Apple, you started getting productivity software, spreadsheets, word processors, database systems, all these on little 8-bit computers. But IBM, and this is the problem with big corporations, they can't see past their own bottom line, monthly bottom line. And that's going to play into this when I get to that. So the original IBM PC, because they put absolutely no money into it whatsoever, they basically built it on off-the-shelf products. So what happened was, and it became fairly popular, but it had no graphics capabilities. You couldn't play games on it. It was a business PC. But what happened was, because everything was off the shelf, other people started making computers that emulated, they call them IBM clones, emulated the IBM computer. And then they just started calling them clones, and then they just started calling them personal computers. And it wasn't for quite a while that, I can't tell you the exact number of months or years or whatever it was, but PC gaming finally kind of came into its own. IBM tried to stop the quote-unquote clones, but they weren't able to at the time. It was a new thing, if you will, and there wasn't a lot of laws covering it, and so they just finally, in the end, they just gave up. And now IBM's not really in the PC business anymore, and you have, other people. But the computer that you're playing on, if you're playing on a Intel type system, what we used to call an IBM clone back in the day. I mean, this is where they've ended up as. So along with all these changes in technology, of course, you've got changes in the software, and so you've got changes in the marketability of that software. It's been times when the PC gaming has been big, and other times when the consoles have begun. So it's very cyclic. It's just up and down, and it's been that way since the very beginning. As far as the Let's Play goes, it's a relatively recent phenomenon, believe it or not. Even though it seems like it's been around for a long time, it's only just really been, I don't know what, maybe 3 or 4 years or something. I don't know the exact amount, maybe longer than that. But in the sort of, boy, this is a huge mesa biome. Look at this. In the scope of things, it's been a relatively short period of time. But the cyclic nature of the industry, I think, is going to play a lot into whether or not Let's Plays continue. And that's because gaming has become big business. Let's face it, games have multi-million-dollar budgets like movies do anymore. The big AAA type, A-list type games. And unfortunately, big business likes to, whenever they get a hold of something like that, they want to control it. And I feel that for the big AAA titles, there's going to be a struggle for control. We've already really seen it with Nintendo, Microsoft, and the Xbox One. They were pulling some shenanigans behind the scenes as far as video reviews and stuff. If you're interested, just Google it. There's a lot of information out there about it. So we're already starting to see that sort of thing. So gaming on that level, I think, as far as Let's Plays are concerned, I'm not sure that they're going to survive in the current format that you have. In other words, you're able just to pick up a game and play it and, monetize it and do all those kinds of stuff. I'm sure there's probably, I view this as probably going to court eventually to kind of define what you can and cannot do. Now, the indie game industry, I think, is still a viable option for at least the foreseeable future. And that's because the indie guys, they want the exposure. They want free advertising. They don't have multi-million-dollar budgets. So that's going to be, I think, a viable project. So I think in the future, what you're going to see is the big boys wanting to control the message. I think the next step is going to be paid Let's Players. That's what I think the Let's Play, as far as the big titles are concerned, that's where Let's Play is going to go. EA and Vivendi and all of these places, all these companies are going to start paying people to Let's Play their games, and the message is going to be, wow, this is the best game ever in the history of games. This game is it. That's going to be the message, I think. On the indie side, it's going to be, yeah, this is a great game, or no, this isn't going to be a great game. The Let's Plays, let's face it, if you're going to do a Let's Play, you're going to do one on a game that you find interesting. You're not going to do it on some crazy dog game, that you personally don't find interesting. So I'm not really sure what the big game industry is really worried about. But this is the way they operate, and so I think that's really going to be where the future is. Now, does this mean it's going to be, a viable for the up and coming? Who knows? I think, we're in a period right now of discovery, and since I've been in this industry, or been in the information technology age, since I've been in it at the very beginning, let me tell you, stuff that we started out with is gone. It's gone. The internet has, when it first came out, the internet was an email system developed by DARPA to demonstrate a distributed network system. That was the whole thing about the internet, was if we have a nuclear attack, can we build a system that would survive a nuclear attack so that we could send information from point A to point B, even though, you know, we've had 3 bombs dropped on us. I mean, this all came about during the Cold War. That's where the internet came from. And now look at it. It was never intended to be a commercial venture, but it's a commercial venture now. And that's really what the internet is. It's one huge shopping mall. You know, it used to be information, now it's a shopping mall. And people are hawking their wares on the internet. That's 99.9% of what the internet was. That was completely not in anybody's mind when the internet first came about. So stuff changes. And whether YouTube and all this stuff is going to survive, it may survive, but I think it's going to be probably vastly different. You know, the technology is going to change. That's one thing about computers that you know, people in the industry know, and that is that they never stay the same. You know, the technology gets more advanced. The things we can do are more complicated. You know, holovision, you know, it sounds science fiction now, but eventually we're going to have 3D monitors, or we're going to be hooking our brains up to a wireless network, and that's how we're going to connect. I mean, it's just a matter of time before that stuff happens. It's already happening now. So, you know, 10 years down the road, you know, it's like dog years, but in computer speak, you know, 10 years is like 100. It's just the technology changes that fast. But as far as the gaming industry, I think we're going to see a split. We're going to see the indie YouTube industry on one side and the professional paid to play on the other. And I think that's where gaming is going to go eventually. So, well, I'm over my time here. We're stop here in this nice little mesa biome, which looks to be quite large actually. I appreciate you watching. I will talk to you again next time. Goodbye.